Good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone attending our panel discussion on sales enablement through data and AI. Today we have a special guest speaker joining our panel discussion. A hearty welcome to Mr. Francis Rodriguez from Team Exponentia.ai. Mr. Francis is the head Senior Vice President Business Insight and Innovation at HDFC Life. Accompanying Mr. Francis in this panel discussion from Team Exponentia.ai will be Mr. Ramendra Shukla, Chief Operating Officer and Co-founder, Mr. Vivek Badwek, Director and Head of Sales, Mr. Pushkar Shukla, Lead ML Solutions, and Mr. Rishikesh Deshmukh, Senior Principal Consultant, who will be the moderator during the panel discussion. Before we begin the session, I'd like to share some instructions with the attendees. During the session, all attendees will be kept on mute, but you may raise your questions or share your input at any time in the chat box. All questions will be addressed at the end of the session. With this, I invite Mr. Rishikesh Deshmukh to begin the discussion.
Thank you so much, Grenville. A very warm welcome and good morning to all the attendees and my panelists today. We are discussing a very interesting topic of artificial intelligence and its impact on sales and its enablement. With me on the panel, we have very distinguished personalities, and Francis Rodriguez, who is heading innovation as well as data labs at HDFC Life. He is also Senior Vice President at HDFC Life and has seen many artificial intelligence and advanced analytics initiatives and steered them to fruition at HDFC Life. There are many initiatives which are industry first he has taken at HDFC Life, and there is a sort of long path he has laid out for others to follow in that direction. So I welcome Francis on this panel discussion, and it will be enlightening to have your views on this very interesting topic. I also have with me Ramendra Shukla, our co-founder and COO, and has led many organizations in implementing and establishing their AI roadmap. And as well, I have with me Vivek Badwek, our sales director and head of sales, and Pushkar Shukla, who leads our ML practice. So with that, I'll start the discussion for today. And as I said, artificial intelligence is one of the most transformative technology that many perceive is going to change the humankind forever and for the better. So there is no denying of its impact on not just business, but also on our everyday life, and something that we have also experienced through whatever we do, right? Something that we shop online, or we go for buying an insurance policy or a banking product or a car and so on and so forth. Everything has an element of AI somewhere embedded into that process. So taking that thought further, and maybe because of the similar reasons, we see that there is a huge investment that we see from global corporates, upwards of hundreds of billions, that is going to come on an annual basis on this area in every organization that we see is leading the AI frontier today. Right? So with that, I will open the floor and start our discussion with the panelists. So first, it would be great, Francis, to know your thought from the insurance background. We see that insurance industry is almost at the cusp of innovation, and there is a inflection point that we see more because of the technology advancement as well as the pandemic that we are into. There is an inflection that we expect to happen in insurance, and there is no denying that technology will enable it. So what are your thoughts on this going forward? How will insurance be shaped by the technology itself?
Sure. So let me start, Rishikesh, by thanking you and Team Exponentia for having me here. It's really glad to be coming here and speaking with Exponentia with people out there on this class. Coming back to the insurance industry and your specific question, I think if you were to kind of look at it, we always say that insurance industry is the cusp of something big. But when you kind of go back and look back at the insurance industry, when it first got privatized in 2001, we had an insurance penetration of around 2.1%. Right? As of last year, that insurance penetration is still 2.8%. But what this small metric kind of realized the huge shift which has happened, right? And there has been a big shift. Today, just the first year premiums for the insurance industry as such is almost, if you speak about life, is around 2 lakh crores, around 50-50 approximately, the private life insurance and the LIC of India. And when you kind of look at this growth, it has actually come at the back of a lot of technology-enabled innovation, and it continues to do so going ahead. So what you see is, at some point of time, insurance being seen as, relatively a laggard in terms of adopting new technologies behind, say, banks and other financial institutions. And that has changed considerably. I mean, a lot of things like, for example, cloud initiative and a whole host of other things. You see insurance industry actually leading the way, and leading, in fact, ahead of some of the banks and financial institutions. Another very interesting piece that has happened again with respect to technology and insurance is the growth of insurtech. And a large number of insurtech players who are basically coming as aggregators, who are coming as enablers in the customer journey, are seeing tremendous amount of investments coming to them across different venture capitalists and funds. In fact, as of recently, we had even the LIC of India wanting to start investing in startups and create a fund for that and so on and so on. So, given this, interesting things that are happening, I think there's indeed time where technology-driven growth can kind of, bridge the last mile gap, which we used to call it. And how do you kind of reach the masses and therefore drive that penetration number, which still is beyond that, 9%. And I think the time has come for that to change, and we see that happen.
So Francis, you mentioned quite a few factors, and indeed they are going to shape the insurance industry going back. But one of the sort of factors that have traditionally influenced all the industries, just insurance, is the consumer expectations from brands and organizations, right? And with the advent of technologies and the technology players that we see today, the expectations of consumers are even more heightened. Right? So, do you think these consumer expectations through technology that are sort of heightened by the technology organization that we see today are also going to influence the sales functions, especially at insurance organizations?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I don't see that not happening. Today, the customer doesn't actually, kind of have different sort of slots in his mind of a technology company versus an e-commerce company versus, a bank and stuff like that. What he expects is basically the ease of, use, the engagement, the 24/7 service that he kind of gets from, say, an e-commerce player. We would like the same thing for his insurance company, kind of holds you up to the same exacting standards. Right? And that is basically driving much faster adoption across each of these areas. Whether it, from a customer's perspective, I think a couple of things have always been a bugbear from an insurance perspective. One is large number of long forms. Second is a large number of documents which are basically taken from financial statement of underwriting. And the other is basically, it's not a very frequent transaction. You can remember insurance company once a year. So therefore, going back, remembering a policy number, then going and calling up the contact center for it, and everything. These are practical things that the customer thinks about, from an insurance industry perspective. Easing and basically making this entire journey, as seamless as possible, as frictionless as possible, being able to kind of get some of this data without the customer having to put in an inordinate amount of effort, filling all these things in, or inordinate amount of effort, kind of scanning and sending us documents and things like that, is basically what you see happening across, and not only on the sales and the marketing side, but also across the entire servicing chain. The chatbots are there across different industries. You have companies graduating to digital avatars as well as voice-enabled service, which is basically
absolutely, Francis. So let me just take that to Ramendra. So Ramendra, do you think some of these expectations from consumers as well as the competitive spirits and having that competitive advantage because technology is proving to be one is driving some of the discussions that you are having with your clients, and how is their approach to technology in the future?
Thanks, Rishi. Further to what Francis just mentioned, which was giving most of the insights. I would like to add a couple of things. When we are having interaction with the enterprises, what is really happening is that there is a movement. Especially in terms of the distribution side. There is a lot of movement which is happening to online, and there is a significant percentage of revenue which we are seeing that is expected to come out of online channels as we move along. And in fact, that entire journey is getting accelerated. So, see the impact which is there, through the changes or adoption from the consumer side, even from the current pandemic environment has literally forced everyone to sell only online. So either sales is happening through sales calls, or the servicing is happening through remote channels. So from a technology point of view, if you look at it, there is a much bigger force and movement which is happening to make sure that the adoption is faster, and there is a push to get more and more technology play into every area of business. In terms of and that's where customer engagement has become one of the key areas. Everyone is looking at how do I improve the customer engagement, how do I make sure that journey is tracked well, and we are able to actually make the entire process more seamless, more intelligent. And on the digital side, I also feel that it may be it may be a bit it may be a bit of a journey to actually keep the customer engaged. When you make a call, like example, in the initial stage itself, you need to build a rapport. So before even calling the customer, you need to have certain information with you. So as a technology as an enabler has a much bigger role to play. That's how I see it. Most of the people have already initiated some of these programs. People who are already up the curve, they have now started thinking about how do we move to the next level, how do we bring in more and more intelligence into the process. So in my view, this entire phenomena is here to stay. We will see much more adoption across different areas, and especially from an AI and analytics point of view. I think the every organization is talking about it, and there are so many use cases which are emerging, and a lot of that has been pointed out by Francis as well. So we are seeing a movement in a similar direction.
Absolutely, Ram. So actually, my next question to Francis is on similar lines. So Francis, we see organizations have adopted AI in multiple departments, but the adoption rate has differed across departments because there is a sort of reference that organizations have put in terms of certain use cases, and researchers proved that marketing and sales are two of the functions which have contributed most from this AI adoption in the top line. So are there any specific use cases you have implemented or you can recommend in the areas of sales and marketing, specifically for insurance?
Yeah, sure. I think you're kind of right that there is basically a lot of adoption across different functions, and increasingly, both not only sales and marketing, but other functions are also adopting technology in a way like never before. Marketing has been a little bit on the forefront, primarily because there is a bunch of technologies directly catering to the marketing function. It's generally kind of grouped under the term marketing today. Everything from being able to kind of create a customer data platform to being able to do much better targeting, retargeting, basically creating marketplaces to programmatic advertising, to optimizing for search engine queries, both SEO and SEM, as well as basically figuring out with customer analytics and audience managers whom to target, when to target, how best to kind of create the scripts and things like that. I think that's the entire universal gamut of what's happening in marketing. But I would like to kind of draw attention to the fact that insurance online sales is growing. It's growing very, very rapidly, but is still a small portion of the overall online sales that's there. And I think the traditional marketing and sales functions, I think the technology adoption there has been phenomenal, and a lot of this has been given a further fillip thanks to the pandemic, because there was the only way to kind of sell it, reach out to your customer in some sense. And I think the number of use cases there is also extremely good. So let me give you a few examples. Like right from the prospecting stage, right? I mean, one of the things is how do you engage, especially younger customers and everything, to kind of consider insurance, right? So, although they appear as sort of sales hacks or slightly more gimmicky, but the engagement at the top of the funnel is really important. And I think again, a lot of AI is being used here. For example, a selfie-based quote. Like, take a picture of yourself, kind of get a very quick quote, because what it does is uses computer vision to figure out a rough estimate of your age, your gender, your BMI, and all this from a simple image to a large extent. The other pieces is basically around things like cycle GANs or generative adversarial networks are used to kind of visualize how you would look when you're older. Now, this comes from a behavioral insight that customers generally don't tend to save for their retirement because they cannot visualize themselves as being. Right? So here is again a very new age technology of generative adversarial networks being used to then give customers a view of how they look in the older. It's a good engagement tool, especially for the retirement products and things like that. But apart from these sort of sales hacks and interesting pieces at the top of the funnel, I think the biggest workhorse is the prospecting and the onboarding stage. Right? So at the prospecting stage, you have various machine learning tools being used for customer propensity as to who's likely to buy, product recommendations to which product are they likely to buy, and also even things like the policy that I'm writing today. How likely is it going to be persistent at the end of the 13th month? Right? Which is basically the first renewal payment due date. Again, on the onboarding stage, a bunch of things from the perspective of being able to kind of identify early claims or risky lives and being able to kind of figure out how you're going to prioritize policy conversion. The holy grail has always been the underwriting function, especially in life insurance, and there we see the deep learning techniques being used for trying to mimic the underwriter's decision. Previously, they were only rule-based outcomes. Now you have deep learning-based outcomes to kind of look at standard postponed decline and rate. So some of these things have also started gaining a little bit of a currency there. Going on the general insurance side, I think there is a whole bunch of technologies which are completely disrupting the way car insurance is being sold in terms of pay as you go or pay only when you're driving your car and things like that, to drone-enabled crop insurance and being able to kind of have a much better view of how the moisture else in the land is working, the likely of crop failures and things like that, to computer vision based claim settlements, right? I mean, you just take a picture of your car and kind of have AI assess it in terms of settlement. So I think there is just an explosion of things across, both computer vision, voice, video, text. Text is something that becomes almost commonplace today, both in terms of chatbots as well as sentiment analysis in terms of being able to kind of determine how happy is the customer with checking transactions and things like that. Right. So everything in the area of AI, a lot of stuff in terms of predictive modeling across the different parts of the entire customer lifecycle. So I think there's no dearth of use cases here.
Absolutely. So there are many use cases which are assistive or recommendation related, and there are many others who are even more empowered to take action themselves, even without human interventions and stuff like that. Very interesting, Francis. Maybe on the same lines, Vivek would want to pick your thoughts on are these some of the use cases sounding familiar to you, because you have experienced the sales for more than a decade and seen challenges in sales. So what are some of those challenges you think can be addressed through these AI use cases?
Yeah, first of all, let me thank the Exponentia team for organizing such a wonderful panel discussion, and this has already got so insightful with Francis' input. And Francis, we have worked together. We have seen so many path-breaking initiatives that you have laid out for the SGFC Life, and definitely it has contributed to SGFC Life being an industry leader what it is today. So, well, coming back to your question, Rishi, I would just like to echo what Francis has said. Prospecting is one of the major hurdles when it comes to lead generation. Prospecting in the right direction is a very important. So the sales team, the challenge today is that the sales team is not armed with the right information about the customer. The days of the cold calls have gone. These are the days of the warm calling. You need to know first about what the customer is, the customer profile, what are his likes, dislikes, are there any dependents, and then you have to pitch the right product to the customer. So I feel one of the major challenge is in prospecting is the knowing the customer too well, knowing the customer well. So the sales team needs to be equipped with all the knowledge about the customer before talking to the customer. Second major challenge I'm talking about, and I'm talking about of a sales team having an organization having a sales team of 1,000 plus people here. So the second challenge is typically on the segmentation of the sales team perspective. So there are how do I allocate a particular right lead to the right salesperson? Now let's talk about insurance. So there are so many products in the insurance industry. There are term plans, there are retirement plan, there are women's plan, children's plan, there are various other ULIP plans. So let's say there is a lead related to term plan lead. Am I allocating that lead to the right salesperson? So from this, I can from the historical data, I can find out which segment of sales team have been performing very well on the term insurance selling perspective. I would rather allocate that term insurance lead to that particular salesperson, to increase my precision on the sales revenue forecasting. So that is the second challenge which can be addressed through the AI platform. Third one is on the repeat business side. So a lot of my revenue forecasting depends on the repeat business. And this is true for across industry, not just insurance but across industry. 70% of the business comes from a repeat business. The remaining comes from the new customer acquisitions. How do I not let go this repeat business? So how can I, after selling, how can I improve my customer experience? So that can be through email calls or through some other support channels. So that is the third one. And the fourth one, how do I, maximize digital channel sales? So industry is moving towards digital first. How can I bring my customers on the digital channels, whereby controlling my cost of sales? One of the challenges that the sales team faces, and as a sales leader I see, is that the sales team, they don't understand the complete buying process of the customer. Who are the stakeholders? This is applicable for B2C scenario as well as B2B scenario. So if something can be done through AI, maybe if we can nudge the salesperson through tasks, that these are the set of tasks that can be done on this particular set of leads, and thereby doing a lead scoring. What is the probability that this particular lead is going to close, understanding sentiment of the customer. And I would like to take a pause here. After commenting, the final challenges that we usually face is on the enablement and the training side. While the sales team is speaking to the customer, we don't know what exactly the salesperson is pitching to the customer, what the customer is talking to the sales team. Can we do some intervention at that point? Can we enable the sales guy with the required information that he, and even after the conversation is done, can we improve that conversation? Can we help the salesperson through training so that he can pitch to the customer in a better way? So the knowledge about the current products, upcoming products, about the competitor's product. So here I'm talking about a sales team of 1,000 plus people, so it is very difficult to do a classroom training in this scenario. So how can AI enable the sales team on training and enablement perspective? So that insights we need to understand. So that information, that a solution we need to get from the industry, analytics industry.
Sure. So training and enablement, availability of information at the right time to the right people for prospecting, then prioritization of leads to lead scoring, and so on and so forth. So many challenges, Vivek, that you have highlighted, and rightly so. Let me take it to Ramendra. Ramendra, do you think these are some of the use cases or areas specifically in sales organizations are looking to implement? Do they sound and gain traction in your discussions with the clients?
And thanks to Francis and Vivek in terms of highlighting the use cases. Actually, prospecting is one area I think everyone is looking at. When you're talking to any sales leader as well, probably the first thing people are looking at, how do I improve my conversions? How do I improve that entire process, right from lead generation to the conversion? How do I bring in more intelligence into the entire process? I think that is one area where there has been, I would say, it's something which has been going on. It's not that it is a new challenge. The challenge has always been there, and everyone is trying to further improvise as we move along. And that's where AI is playing an important role, and is expected to play a much more important role as well as we move along. Whether it is in terms of identification of prioritization of leads, propensity of movement from one stage to the other, what are the factors which are driving this movement, whether, and this is entirely in the context of what is the segment of the lead, what is the segment of the salesperson, and how this entire context is moving across different leads. Now there are it's not it's easier said than done. There are various complexities in terms of how do you actually set up this entire ecosystem, and it may have variations for enterprises as well. So it may not be that there is a one shoe fit all approach here. This may need a deeper understanding at an organizational level, and wherein you could actually work out a solution. Of course, at a high level, the direction of the solution remains similar. The other area where we have been having multiple discussions, is around this, creating a more of a system of action, which is intelligent system of action beyond what is happening in a CRM. So the other aspect is more around, let's say, how can you understand the behavioral profiling of the sales team, in terms of, so let's say, there is a person who has more experience on a particular product, or has more experience in the industry, or there are people who are at different levels of maturity with respect to the sales process in the organization. The other aspect is whether the sales aspect, the sales process itself is getting followed or not, and how do we ensure that that entire piece is more compliant with the use of technology. Now, defining the process itself is something which requires probably at some stage AI to have a play to really understand that at an individual level, what could be the variations in the process which can be brought in. So I think these are a couple of areas. In addition to this, there is a lot of conversations we are having around conversational intelligence as well, because how people are talking, what is the content of that conversation. That is a very important aspect of bringing more predictability to the sales, right? So many times, otherwise what happens is one is more reliant on whatever is the gut feel of the salesperson. But is there a possibility that we can pull out some insights from the conversations, and be able to put that in the right perspective for leaders to see? Secondly, can there be interventions in real time to actually help the sales team, move the conversation in certain direction? Several other things which can come out of it, whether it is related to competition. What are people saying, that are the rates higher, are the rates lower, or there are other offerings which are there in the market. So some of that intelligence, otherwise, I find it very difficult to be captured. So that's where conversational intelligence is also something which we are having a lot of discussions on. Other than that, improved analytics. I think the nature of analytics is such that the moment you hit one milestone, we're looking for the next one. And with the data generation increasing, by increasing every day, there are new and new insights which are expected out of data. So I would say these are various use cases or areas where the conversations are happening very, very actively with the sales leader.
Striking things have come out from what you have said, just Ram. One of them, of course, is conversational piece, and there is a treasure trove of information lying in all the conversations that sales team and otherwise other people from the organizations are having with customers, partners, and so on and so forth. And if this is analyzed and sort of insights can be unearthed out of it, we are just making that information available with an individual, a systemic knowledge, and there is so much more value to that. So great thoughts. But Pushkar, what Ram also said is that there is no one size fits all approach to AI implementation, even though there are so many advantages of AI implementation. So, looking at organizations, they could be at different levels of maturity in terms of tech adoption, in terms of their size and scale, and so on and so forth. So, how should we, guide organizations? And in your experience, how have you done it, right? For organizations who are at different levels of scale and maturity, how should they adopt and approach AI implementations?
Sure. Thanks, Rishikesh. Thanks for asking this question. I think it's a great question. I think if there's a debate between the size and the maturity, tech maturity, I would probably give more importance to tech maturity here. So as a solution provider, focusing more on the ML use cases, when I think of building an approach for a solution, the maturity stage of the organization is a key input. Right? As part of my job, I have seen both ends of the spectrum. So when I say spectrum, I'm talking of the AI maturity spectrum. On the left side, there are companies that are doing nothing to infuse AI in their processes. And then on the right side of the spectrum, there are companies who have reaped the results of AI and today are in process of transforming it to make it better. So not just they have implemented AI, but now they are trying to actually optimize it, or maybe make it better. So the idea here is that once you figure out the life cycle stage of a company, you start with several short-term goals and a long-term objective. So let's first talk about maybe a company which is on the left side, the extreme left of the spectrum. Think about a 50-year-old mid-sized pharma company which is, say, exploring AI technologies. So when I say that they are exploring AI technologies, it is safe to assume that they have not put any AI tech in production here. So what would be the right strategy for them? If I am their consultant, probably I'll ask them to explore with small POCs. Probably identify specific use cases, run the POCs on them, and take end user feedback. But this is not the end of it. This is just maybe a tip of the iceberg that we are talking here. There's a lot more to this. And when I say that there's a lot more, there's more on the data side. One of the key elements of any AI implementation is data. I would maybe look at what and how they capture the data. Right? When I say what and how, these are two very important questions that I need to address when I'm defining an approach. What will address the gaps in the data availability for an AI objective that we want to accomplish here? Right? So when we are talking of, say, a pharma company, and the objective here is to maybe analyze doctor calls. Right? So I need to know what data points that are available. I probably, in order to analyze the data, the doctor calls, probably I would need the call records here. So I need to understand how these things are getting captured. Right? The second part is how. So how will define the method of calling that data? So it's not just about, say, having that data, but how you actually capture the data and store it is another important question here. Right? So when we are saying, say, maybe talking about, say, doctor visits data, right? So how are they actually capturing that data? Is it in Excel? So if it is in Excel, then probably my strategy of maybe coming up with an AI solution would be different. Right? And if it is, say, SQL or maybe more structured data, maybe blob storage, for example, then probably I'll have a different strategy when it comes to building an AI solution for them. Right? So the idea is that we need to visit the data infra. Probably we'll have to get into a deeper dive into the data infra when we are talking about the companies like this. Just building an AI on top of whatever is there will not lead to a point where we are able to achieve the objective. Things like data generation, storage capacity, compute power, modeling techniques. So all these things need a good audit before I actually come up with an AI strategy. Right? There are a lot more things. So just data is just probably one significant factor that I need to put into account when I am coming up with an AI strategy. The other things also include, say, something like cloud compatibility, tech architecture, migration, tool selection, user adoption, use cases, mobile platform. All these things are also important when I'm actually probably giving some advice on this front to any of the company. Right? So this is more of the things that probably we have to consider when we are talking of the companies which are on the left side of the AI maturity spectrum. Let's talk about a company that is in the stage of AI, maybe the right side of the spectrum of the AI maturity, right? Typically, we are talking about companies who are tech aggregators. Today, most of the tech aggregators, they are on the right side of the spectrum here. So what we are talking about are companies like Uber, Amazon, Netflix. If we are talking about the Indian context, maybe Pharmacy, Swiggy, Cred. So these are all the companies which I would consider are on the right side of the AI maturity spectrum. These companies are the front runner when it comes to AI. When I approach them, so if there is an AI solution that I'll have for them, I need to be talking about a very specific problem that will get solved with AI. Right? I will not be bothered about giving them data management or cloud technology solutions when I'm talking about AI that probably is best for them, right? Because there is a reason why they are on the right side of the spectrum, and that reason is that they've already taken care of most of the stuff that the other companies have not, right? So something like data management, cloud technologies, I think they have already gone past that stage, and right now they are more focused on, say, specific use cases that can be driven through AI. Right? So right now what we have discussed is we have discussed two type of organization at the two ends of this spectrum, AI maturity spectrum. There are a lot of other organizations, so all the other organizations will fall somewhere in between these two endpoints. So whenever I'm, say, coming up with a solution related to AI, I'll probably look at the stage where the company is actually falling and how I divide the stage. So the starting point is companies which are, say, which are exploring. So exploring what AI is and what it can bring to their organization. Then there are companies who are experimenting. So these are the companies who are, say, experimenting through POCs. Then there are companies who are, say, formalizing. So they have already gone past that stage where they have conducted POC. Maybe it was successful, maybe it was not. But if it was successful, probably they are formalizing mechanism to actually bring the POC to production. Right? And then there are companies which are optimizing. So these are the companies which are actually increasing their number of AI use cases, so scaling up. And then there are companies which are transforming, which we have already talked about, so all the Ubers and the Amazons of the world. Right? So to answer your question, Rishi, as someone who works closely on AI tech, I try to offer the complete width of services, ranging from data collection, storage, computation, ML models, automation, everything. But the idea here is that a deeper investigation is required in terms of which stage the company is in, and then probably define the approach.
Right. So basically, it's assessing the stage of the organization and then building the right path. But one thing will stay true for each of the organization, which is the larger objective and impact to business goals. So Francis, let me pick your brain on this one because what we have talked about is the different maturity levels of the organizations. But within the organization, also certain functions adopt technology faster than the rest. And consulting organization and others have put out research surveys which have said that marketing looks to be sort of leading when we compare AI adoption vis-a-vis sales. So do you think this is going to change and sales is also going to catch up? From your experience, what are your thoughts on this dichotomy between marketing and sales?
So I think since there is a suite of products already available for marketing, especially for digital marketing, I think they are clearly adopters there. But I think increasingly the sales function is rapidly kind of picking up newer technologies. Some of it has been because of the pandemic. So, for example, remote selling, right? Or being able to sell over a video call, being able to, insurance, for example, a large part of the sale used to be the seller, in this case a financial consultant or the company employee, kind of working with the customer and creating a paper and pencil sort of cash flow, and then showing them how his cash flow will change and how his business will happen and how his money will grow. Now moving to the online piece, being able to do that through a whiteboarding tool which is integrated into your video conferencing tool, and being able to kind of sell through that, and being able to spin up calculators on the fly, and being able to kind of show that with the help of calculators and things like that are key enablers from a sales perspective. The second key big area is basically form filling. I mean, insurance forms, especially life insurance and term insurance forms, can be, irritatingly quite tedious and long with 100 fields or 80 fields plus fields. Being able to use a lot of external data, basically tapping into, say, the data that customer already has, working with, say, credit bureaus and pulling credit bureau information to kind of fill in some details, using optical character recognition technologies to read directly from KYC documents, and being able to fill in those details, CKYC, EKYC, all these things put together, plus being able to kind of look at financial statements, whether it's bank accounts or ITR statements, and then very quickly kind of completing the financial underwriting almost in an automated fashion. I think these are some of the additional things that you'll see the sales team using a lot. Apart from that, from their own sales management, right? Being able to do a beat planning, being able to basically figure out which customers to meet and how to kind of plan their journey. Being able to have a record of all the sales you have done, as well as your funnel and prospects, and the interactions that happen between the L1 or the immediate manager and the salesperson and maintaining that on a system. I think that's another big one. Apart from these, I think there is a lot of work which is happening in the area of what I call as nudge engines and productivity enhancers for the sales team. I think that's another big piece which is kind of will move the needle with regards to that. Right? More intelligent contests, incentives, and sales plans again helps. I think Ramendra had spoken about, or Vivek had spoken about, the agent recommendation engine, figuring out which agent is best for which kind of product, as well as which kind of customer segment, and being able to kind of, based on that success, kind of recommend the right agent who should go and meet a particular sales call. I think this is another big one that's kind of impacting sales. So there's, in total, a large number of very interesting stuff which is happening in the world of sales, and they are kind of tapping into almost every technology that you see. Right? For example, Uber basically allowed customers to kind of see which is the nearest car available for a ride-hailing service. Today, if there is a customer interest in a particular location, that would be kind of, in that sense, Uberized. So the nearest salesperson who's available in that geography and kind of be able to go and meet the customer here based. So these are some interesting things that are happening and continue to happen and impacting sales. So I don't see sales being far behind. I see it very, very rapidly catching up with.
Sure. Thanks, Francis. And quickly, Vivek, I just want to understand you from you also. Are these some of the use cases or tools that you can also adopt and approach your challenges that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, sure. So there are some use cases that we have already implemented for within the organization, and there are some use cases that we have implemented with our customers in the BFSI space. So I will probably combine all of them. Put it together, and the results are really very promising. The outcome is really very promising with the implementation of these use cases. Like Francis also mentioned, and I also mentioned, the prospecting is one of the major hurdles that needs to be overcome, and for that, the sales team, they need to be enough equipped with the knowledge about the customer. So the customer profiling, if it can be, so gone are the days of cold calls. It's always a warm call. No, you need to warm up the customer first. So the sales team, they need to know about the customer first. Who are his dependents? What are his likes and dislikes? What are his inclination? And then position the product appropriately. The product recommendation for those customers. If armed with that information, if the salesperson goes to the customer, then the fear automatically goes out. He talks to the customer with a lot of confidence. So that is the first one. Second one is the post-sales experience, and I would like to emphasize on that because it gives us a lot of repeat business. So can I get the entire support mechanism on the bot platform? It can be a WhatsApp bot. from the new sales perspective, can I migrate the entire customer buying journey on a Facebook? So we are partnered with Facebook, right? So we can entirely transform this the entire buying journey on the Facebook platform, and there can be any other social media platforms. Another one is the AI powered nudges. So this we have many of our customers, and so what this AI powered nudges does is it sends you the personalized dashboard to the sales agents. It gives sales agent what is their quota achievement, what is the conversion rate happening at the various stages of the pipelines, what are the incentives he's earning, after the every closure of the deal, and how he's being ranked among his peers, what is his ranking this quarter or this particular month. So basically all these parameters motivates the salesperson to take a step further. Apart from that, I would like to just take an example. So we were doing this implementation for one of the NBFCs, and the idea was to do a sales enablement and the sales performance management. So they were really very top performers. There were some people in the sales team who were not performing very well, but through very interesting visualization, or through a very intelligent visualization, what it was found that some of the they are having a hockey stick performance. Okay, so like 3/4 of the month they are sitting idle, but the last 1/4 of the month they are actually achieving their targets. So through intelligent visualizations, we were able to get these insights. Then after this, I can, with this information, I can take action. I can maybe increase the target of that salesperson. I can sit with that salesperson, try to understand what is the problem. And so the idea is to have, as a sales leader, I want a consistent performance in my team. Through this one tap platform that we have implemented and built by Exponentia, so we were able to get this kind of insights. Second one was on the learning side. Through voice analytics, we were able to find out that what were the shortcomings in the salesperson. And we were able to push the AI recommended the learning modules or training modules in the form of PDF files, in the form of audio files, or in the form of the videos. We were able to share the various scaling up platforms like Skillshare and so and etc. So that was another implementation that we have done. And the final one was the smart recommendations through nudges, telling the sales team, if you want to achieve your sales quota, so these are the priority lists you should be focusing on. And, allocate the AI generated tasks to those leads. So, and incentivize the sales team after completion of those tasks, So this is how we were able to, get some results from the sales team, helping them, achieve the targets. And there were some other features like, CRM recommended leads, there were some features like, the managers could also, set up the task to the sales team, which they can, achieve and get themselves incentivized. So there are some of the things that we have already implemented, and few of them are already in the pipeline. But I believe that voice analytic and AI powered nudges is the thing of the future, and they are really gaining momentum.
Sure. I just want to take Francis's thoughts on this nudge engine, which is becoming popular for sales leaders and sales teams for AI adoption. So Francis, what do you think are must have components or good to have features in a nudge engine when organizations are looking to implement it?
So I'll basically speak about the three broad dimensions which I think are the most important while designing any nudge engine. So number one is what are you nudging? Are you nudging inputs or only outputs? Right? So if you're saying, oh, please go sell another policy, please go sell another policy of this type, right? This nudge is something that any which ways his boss is telling him every day, and this is also basically something that he is incentivized in your typical sales incentive schemes. This is basically what's there, right? So there is this sort of spectrum between input and output, and looking at how do we kind of in a nudge engine nudge towards a lot of input behaviors which are not being currently incentivized on a daily basis, or perhaps not something that his first level of leadership is telling him on a daily basis. So things like, okay, go wish the customer a happy birthday, or go complete this training program, or go and collect these documents from the customer because it helped your policy get converted faster, right? These are basically seemingly input based variables which will cause your output to come faster. to be able to kind of emphasize a certain amount of effort on the input, which nobody else is doing. So I'm not saying that incentivizing output is wrong, but what I'm saying is that there's a whole bunch of other mechanisms in place in the organization and the hierarchy, which is focusing on output, right? So your nudge engine should also focus on inputs because it's probably the only thing which is focusing on inputs. So being able to kind of do that. So I think that is one dimension. The second dimension I would say is, competing with people like you or at the same level. Today, if I were to kind of go and play badminton with PV Sindhu, I feel really bad at losing, right? and it'll happen every time. So that's what also sometimes happens to salespeople. You expect them to be aggressive, they expect them to be go-getters, but in a particular city or in a particular geography, a lot of times schemes and contests and everything else and nudges are comparing them against peers in the same geography. But what if my beat is perhaps somewhere on the outskirts of Bombay, things like that, which not a lot of affluent population, and versus my colleague's beat is basically in South Bombay and Colaba and stuff. There's no way I can ever meet the same numbers. Right? So a healthy competition arrives when you're competing with people at the same level. So rather than looking at the geography as the only dimension by which you kind of create contests and nudges at top 3 in geography or top 3 in region, think about it from the perspective of much more national scale or across where you're present, and think about a similar set. So segment your sales team members well and allow them to compete in their segment so that they are kind of optimized and they kind of grow. And if they're doing really well, then move them to the next segment, move them to the upper segment. If somebody is struggling in the upper segment, bring them down, right? But it's important that there's always a healthy level of competition when he feels he can win. Right? And I think that's very important. And a lot of these segmentations are better done on area potential, on vintage, on some of these parameters rather than only on geography. The third element I think Vivek touched upon, and this is the third dimension which I think is very important. A nudge engine always tells you what to do, but if it is not integrated or supported with how to do it, right, then the efficacy is only so much. Right? So I might say that very good, please go and every birthday, every Diwali, everything, wish your customer. But if I can also tie it up with say another a ready-made greeting card, which I need to just customize, right? I just need to write the name of the customer and it kind of automatically gets embedded there along with the on the JPEG on the picture, and you have an ability to WhatsApp it from the nudge engine itself. It says from Francis, as it whatever the name of the salesperson who sent it. I mean, it's making this task to do that much easier. Another good example is, for example, if I'm trying and working on a pitch which, for example, my L&D department taught me or somebody else taught me, and I'm working with this pitch with my customers, but it's not working. The customers are kind of coming back with, say, particular type of rebuttal, and they're saying that no, I'm not interested in this because of this, right? And if I'm facing this very often, what happens is, the time interval by which this information transmits upwards, I will face this 3-4 times, then I will speak to my L1 who's made my immediate boss, then that information, if seen across, will move to the the L2 or the regional manager. That then information goes to say the company's L&D department. The L&D department thinks about the right script and works on it and comes back, and then it gets cascaded downwards, and we have a whole amount of time lost. Versus imagine being able to put this up as, say, a problem statement onto say a good community platform with other sales team members and other peers of yours, and then basically people can solve this, and then you can kind of vote which one has solved it better or who has solved it better. You can vote or upload those videos. Right? You have a solution which is peer and crowdsourced immediately. So the point here, the dimension that I wanted to speak about is the dimension wherein you are working towards being able to help the how and not only what that needs to be done. Right? You don't have to, need not be prescriptive the how, but it can be something that is enabled, the how part of it. So I think these are the 3 dimensions: input versus output, basically competing within your segment, and being able to help the how of the nudge rather than the what of the nudge. I think if we have all these 3 things in place, I think that's the element of a good nudge engine.
This is really a very good perspective to look at the nudge engine from, and probably I think Pushkar has instrumental in building some of the one such platform having some of these components already built into it. We are almost at time, but before the discussion that we are having, and so interesting and fascinating, I think we have sort of lost track of time a little bit. But Pushkar, I would just request you to quickly show us this platform so that our attendees and everyone sort of also benefits as to how the platform benefits things. And in the meanwhile, I'll also request attendees, if you have any questions, do feel free to put it in the chat box, and we'll take them up post them. Over to you, Pushkar.
Sure, thanks. I'm going to share my screen, and maybe I'll give you a sneak peek into the one tab that Rishikesh actually talked about. So the idea is that it should have multiple modules where the sales guys can come and maybe see few of the nudges that maybe have been generated through an algorithm, or maybe the manager has nudged them. Probably it could help them in facing, maybe able to take care of the other challenges, like taking care of their daily tasks. So let's start with how they actually can take care of their daily tasks. So there is a module called My Day Today, and it is not restricted to just sales representatives who actually work on the ground. It is also for the sales leaders and the managers as well. So if you're able to see the screen, how we actually have divided My Day Today is into different categories. So there's a category called My Priority Action. So these are all the actions that that are revolving around a particular lead. Right? So because lead is the most important thing that sales rep actually take care of. So what are the different actions that they need to take care with respect to a certain leads, right? So if you look at it, there are leads which are there in form of a card, and then there are various actions that are maybe that are put in front of this guy in order to make sure that leads keeps on moving and maybe moves to the advanced stage of the pipeline. So for example, in this case, the lead ID 541086, there are two tasks that he has to complete: submit the application form signed by the customer and communicate to the customer. So this probably information is coming from, they say, CRM, or could be any other source. And this information can be maybe sitting in different systems, different tech systems, right? So the idea is collect all these information, put it in one screen for the sales rep, so that he's able to see all the tasks that he has to do in the single screen as well, and he can change the status of the task from this screen itself. So there's a seamless integration with the backend technologies, and once he changes the status here, it changes the status here in the backend systems as well. So the idea is probably these things will help him understand what are the things that he has to take today and plan his day, right? So like priority actions, there is My Activities section as well. This is primarily revolving around maybe calendar events, the meetings that he has set up. So that kind of information is here as well. And then My Huddle Task, so something that he has maybe discussed with his managers, and his manager has assigned him certain tasks, or maybe he himself has created certain tasks. So there are tasks which he has created, and then there are tasks which has been assigned by the manager. There's a module on the learning tube. So when we are talking of learning channels, I think learning plays a very critical role here. So again, the tool directly talks with the CMS here, the underlying CMS, and it puts down all the learning related stuff that probably this guy is interested in. So probably we can have an algorithm in place as well, which identifies or maybe recommends which learning tool is probably perfect for a given sales rep based on his, say, experience, the learning curve, or maybe the manager recommendations. When we are talking of the nudges, so nudges could be in form of recommendations. They could be smart nudges, they could be manager recommendations. So smart nudges are primarily an output of the algorithm model. Here we are talking about, say, different stages in the lead pipeline, and what this nudge is telling is that stage 1 conversion is fine as compared to the benchmark. It's more or less the same. In stage 2, your conversion is a lot lower than your benchmark, and stage 3 again it's lower. So probably the idea is for him to be able to, so this is a performance related nudge, where the idea is that he should be able to know where he needs to put in more effort. So in this case, the more effort needs to be put in stage 2 and stage 3, and he knows what he needs to achieve here. So he needs to get to the benchmark point. Now these benchmarks are again based on his peer group performance, So again, there's an algorithm which takes into account the peer group performance and comes up with this benchmark here. There are process related nudges, and so if performance is actually talking about, say, overall performance of an individual for a given period, the process related nudges are primarily focused on leads. So for a given lead, why it is important. So we have a lead score here. So if you look at on the right side of the top section, there's a score there for, again, in the second lead there's a score again. So this score is out of 5, which tells how important the lead is. So one of the challenges that these guys face is that how they actually prioritize the lead. So this is how they can do that. So the algorithm is helping them. So it's not just telling them why this there's a lead which needs to be set on priority, but it is also telling him why. So there's a disbursement probability that is given 72%. So because we are talking about the lending institute here, we are talking about the disbursement probability, and then the current stage probability, which is moving from current stage to the next stage. So if you look at it, the current stage is legal completion state, and the probability that it's going to advance to the next stage is 65%. So both the probabilities are, say, greater than 50%, and that's why probably the lead score is high. Similarly, if you look at it, the current stage duration, so that means the lead has been sitting in this stage for 52 days, but the benchmark duration is only 1 day. So that's something that probably needs to be highlighted to this guy, and probably this is also contributing to the lead score that is pointed out here. Apart from is that it also gives him some insight that why this lead is important, because the model has identified that if a lead which is getting originated in tier 3 cities, the chances that it's going to get dispersed, or maybe the chances of the dispersal probability is high. So those factors which are actually important for the final conversion are also highlighted here. We have manager recommendations here. So these are the recommendations that actually are sent by the manager. So we have a manager portal as well, admin portal. Probably we can have a separate session on that, where we actually tell you how these actually nudges are created by the manager. But the idea is that manager identifies a KPI and tells an individual whether how is his performance around that KPI. So in this case, the manager of this particular individual has identified conversion rate as a KPI, and he's telling him that you are amongst the bottom 30% pool in terms of the conversion rate. Right? And in order to actually improve this conversion rate, he's also advising him what steps that he can take. Right? So he's saying that focus on leads with higher chances of getting converted. So he's using an algorithm here. So he has access to that algorithm, which gives him the conversion probability. And he's telling him that there are certain leads in his portfolio which have a higher higher chances of conversion, and you need to handle that lead. And number is there's one lead, so there could be more than one lead, 4 or 5 leads for others, but in this case there's only one lead, and he needs to start focusing on that. Same goes for other. So it's not just about, say, highlighting something which is a gap in an individual performance, but it can also be something like a motivational nudge, right? So if you look at the third nudge, so you generate good quality leads. So again, this is coming from the manager. So you generate good quality leads as your generation to lead ratio is better than your peers. So it's telling him that you are better in some regards as compared to your peers. The last module is more on the bot side. So the bot is actually kind of an assistant to all these sales reps. So what it's going to do is any kind of help that any sales rep can want can actually come here and look at that. So bot will tell him what are the different things that he wants help on. For example, he wants to look at all these tasks. So he can simply look at all these tasks. The bot will provide the list of all the tasks. In case he wants to update any of these tasks, he can click on it, update that task. An update could be anything. So the bot will keep on prompting the different things that he could do. So he wants to update title, description, due date, status, or he wants to just delete it. And the task gets deleted. So the next time when he's going to ask for that task will not pop up. It's only one task. Right? So it's not just the push feature that is part of this solution where the information is pushed through an algorithm or by the manager, but it also a pull feature where the sales rep can come and maybe ask for certain information. So that's about it.
Sure. Thanks, Pushkar, so much. This looks really interesting, and no wonder why so many organizations are wanting to implement the nudge engine that you have built. With this, I think we'll open the floor for questions if there are any. And in the interim, I just have one question to Francis on the demo that you have seen, Francis. What are your thoughts? The nudge engine that you have just seen, the Pushkar, one that Pushkar demo. Sure. I think there is a meeting that Francis needs to go and attend, and probably will connect with him later. But I think we have had an interesting discussion. Yeah.
Thanks, Rishikesh. I think interesting nudge engine, and all the very best to Exponential. In kind of reaching out to the clients with this. I think this is the need of the hour. We know more number of people and more sales organizations will do something like this. Unfortunately, I have to drop off right now. I have another priority. But
sure.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was a wonderful exchange.
Thank you so much, Francis, for your time.
Thank you so much, Francis. Thank you.
It was really insightful to hear your thought. Yes, sir. Yeah. So thank you so much, Francis. Really an interesting discussion. Thanks to all my panelists, Francis Rodriguez, Ramendra Shukla, Vivek Badwaik, and Pushkar Shukla. Thank you so much. It has been really enriching, and I hope our attendees also found it helpful. For any questions that you may have on some of the demos that we have shown, or the use cases that we have discussed, if there are any questions following up on that, do feel free to get in touch with our team, and we will try and set up a meeting for a detailed demo as well as discussions. Thank you so much for your time, and wish you a very good day.
Thank you, Rishi.